My sister said, only real family belongs here. The night before her $47,000 wedding, the wedding I'd booked under my name. Mom said I was bluffing. 4 phone calls proved otherwise. The night before her wedding, my sister sent me a text. You're out of my wedding. Only real family belongs here. I read it twice. I want to describe what I felt in that moment because it matters for understanding everything that came after. It was not rage. It was not even hurt, exactly, though hurt was in there. What I felt, sitting in my apartment at 11:47 p.m. with my phone in my hand, was the specific sensation of 8 years of weight being set down. The feeling of a person who has been holding something very heavy for a very long time and has just been told clearly and in writing that the thing she was holding was not wanted. I typed 5 words. Good. Real family can pay. I pressed send. I put my phone on the kitchen table. I went to the window. I stood there for a moment. Then I opened my laptop. My name is Myra Templeton. I am 34 years old. I am a project manager at a mid-size construction firm in Hartford, which means I spend my professional life ensuring that complex, multi-vendor undertakings arrive at completion on schedule and within budget, that every contract is executed correctly, that every authorized party is correctly identified on every document. This professional background is relevant to the story. My sister Jessica is 29. My mother Linda is 61. Our father died 11 years ago. Suddenly, a heart attack, 2 weeks after my college graduation. I was 23. Jessica was 18. My mother was 50. I want to tell you about the year after my father died because it is where everything that eventually accumulated began to accumulate. My mother had never managed the household finances. This was not a criticism of her. It was simply the architecture of their marriage. And when the architecture collapsed, she did not have the skills to replace it. She had a job as a dental hygienist that covered her personal expenses and part of the utilities. She did not have the framework for a mortgage, 2 insurance policies, a car payment, and the ongoing cost of keeping a household operational. I had a salary. I had my father's accounting instincts, which I had inherited in full. I had the specific combination of capability and presence that meant I was the person who was going to figure it out. I figured it out. For 6 years, I covered the majority of the mortgage on my mother's house, $100 a month, transferred on the first of every month. I covered Jessica's college tuition, $12,000 a year, for 4 years. Her rent when she quit her first job at 22 and needed 2 months to find another one. Her car insurance, which she had let lapse without mentioning to anyone, discovered when I happened to ask about her registration renewal. Her emergency credit card bills, twice, in amounts that I did not ask about and she did not explain. Nobody asked me to do any of this. I did it because it needed doing and I was the one who could do it. I want to be clear that I am not telling you this to perform martyrdom. I am telling you because the story has a shape and you need to understand the shape to understand the moment I set down what I was carrying. When Jessica got engaged to Brandon Marsh in October, the celebration at dinner was genuine. I liked Brandon in the moderate, uncomplicated way you like a person who makes your sibling happy without triggering any specific concern. He was 31, a sales manager at a pharmaceutical company, steady and pleasant. At that same dinner, before the dessert arrived, Jessica said, I was thinking Wren Valley Estate for the venue. I knew Wren Valley. It was the kind of venue that appeared on wedding blogs with the word breathtaking. Rolling hills outside Hartford, a restored 1890s farmhouse, a capacity for 200 guests. I also knew the price range. Nobody said anything about price. Nobody asked who was going to handle the booking. Jessica talked about the venue for 20 minutes with the specific energy of a person who has already decided and is sharing the decision rather than making it. 3 days later, she called me. You're so much better at handling this stuff than I am, she said. Could you call Wren Valley and get the process started? I'll Venmo you for whatever deposits. She did not Venmo me. I called Wren Valley. I spoke with the venue coordinator, Teresa Nguyen, who had been managing event contracts there for 8 years and who walked me through the booking terms with professional efficiency. The deposit was $5,000. The total venue fee was $18,000, with the balance due 30 days before the event. I put my card down. The contract was signed by Myra Templeton, then the caterer. $14,000, $3,500 deposit. Signed, Myra Templeton, the florist. $6,500, $1,500 deposit. Signed, Myra Templeton, the photographer. $8,500, $2,000 deposit. An excellent photographer. I had researched 3 before choosing her. Signed, Myra Templeton. Over 6 weeks of calls, emails, and contract reviews that Jessica was never part of, I had committed $47,000 under my name to my sister's wedding. Jessica had pointed at what she wanted. She had never read a single document. She did not know, I understood this clearly and confirmed it later, whose name was on the contracts. The possibility that the contracts were in anyone's name had not occurred to her, because the possibility that the contracts required a name, required an authorized party, required someone to be legally responsible for the obligations contained in them, had not occurred to her. She had pointed. I had handled. That was the system, and the system had always worked, and she had never needed to understand its mechanics, because understanding was not her part of the arrangement. 3 months before the wedding, on a Thursday afternoon in February, I drove to the office park where Brandon worked to get his signature on an insurance form, a joint policy Jessica had asked me to manage. I was halfway across the parking lot when the rear passenger door of a black Audi opened. A woman stepped out. Late 20s, dark hair, dressed in business casual. She adjusted her blouse, smoothed her skirt. She did not look around before she began walking quickly toward the building entrance. Then the driver's door opened. Brandon stood up from the car. He saw me from 20 feet away. The color left his face with the completeness of a light being switched off. I stopped walking. He walked toward me. It's not what it looks like, he said. How long? He looked at the ground. The specific posture of a man who has been caught and has moved past the denial phase into the calculation phase in about 4 seconds. 4 months, he said. Jessica had been engaged for 6. I stood in that parking lot and I thought about my sister and the venue and the caterer and the florist and the photographer and the $47,000 and the family I had been holding together with my bare hands since I was 23 years old. I made a decision that I knew, even as I made it, was not the right decision. I gave him 3 months to end it. I told him he needed to tell Jessica or I would. I told him he had until the beginning of May. I told him I was watching and that my patience was not what my family seemed to believe it was. He said he would end it. He did not end it. I found out he had not ended it on a Monday morning in April from a text sent to the wrong number, mine instead of hers. 3 words that required no interpretation, sent at 7:18 a.m. I sat with that for the rest of the day. I should have told Jessica immediately. I know that. I have thought about it many times and I know it. What I did instead was process the information across 4 days of silence, watching Jessica excitedly show me a mock-up of the ceremony program and feel the specific exhaustion of a person who has been protecting people from information for so long that the instinct to protect had become automatic. I did not tell her. I made a different decision. I called a family attorney named Patricia Voss, 22 years in family and contract law in Connecticut, and I asked her a specific question. If I were the authorized party on a series of vendor contracts for an event, and I chose to cancel those contracts, what were my legal obligations? Patricia reviewed the contract language I sent her. You have cancellation rights on all 4, she said. The deposits are non-refundable, which means cancellation costs you the deposit amounts already paid, but the cancellation right belongs to the authorized party. That's you. A pause. Can I ask what you're considering? Not yet, I said. I need to think about it. I thanked her and hung up. I thought about it for 3 weeks. Then came the text. My mother called 20 minutes after I sent my reply. I did not answer. She left a voicemail in the tone of a woman performing exasperation for an audience that wasn't there. Myra, I saw what you sent. That's enough. She's upset and you're making it worse. You'll be there tomorrow with your pastries and your apology like you always are, and we can all move forward. She had shared my reply, apparently in a tone of amused certainty, with whoever was present. I put my phone face down. I opened the vendor contact list I had maintained in a spreadsheet for 7 months. I thought about 8 years. I thought about the text. Only real family belongs here. I thought about the bridesmaid group chat I had been excluded from for months, which I learned about because my cousin had mentioned it casually, not knowing I wasn't in it. I thought about Brandon's text to the wrong number. I thought about the photograph sent anonymously to me in March of Brandon and the woman from the parking lot at a restaurant in New Haven on a Saturday night. The anonymous sender had included no message. They had clearly decided that the photograph was sufficient communication. I thought about the $47,000. I thought about the years before the $47,000. Then I set my alarm for 6:45 a.m. I was at my kitchen table at 7 o'clock on the morning of my sister's wedding. My hands were shaking. I pressed them flat against the table between calls. My voice did not shake once. Wren Valley Estate. Teresa Nguyen answered on the second ring. I identified myself as the authorized party on the Templeton wedding reservation. I gave my account verification information. I requested immediate cancellation of the reservation under the terms of the cancellation clause Patricia had flagged. Teresa confirmed the cancellation. She noted, professionally and without comment, that the deposits were non-refundable. I understand, I said. 12 seconds. Next number. The caterer. Confirmed and cancelled. The florist. Confirmed and cancelled. The photographer. Confirmed and cancelled. 12 minutes. 4 vendors. 4 cancellations. $47,000 in events I had contracted under my name, now released. I put my phone down. I pressed my hands flat against the table again. I sat in the quiet of my kitchen for a while. I made coffee. I went to work. At 9:22 a.m., according to a timeline I assembled later from multiple sources, my sister called Wren Valley Estate to confirm the day's setup schedule. Teresa Nguyen answered. I'm sorry, Miss Templeton. The reservation under Templeton has been canceled as of this morning. Canceled by who? I'm Miss Templeton. I'm the bride. The contract was signed by Myra Templeton. She's the authorized party on the reservation. She called at 7:03 this morning to cancel under the terms of the contract. 8 seconds of silence. Jessica hung up and called me. Tell me she's lying. My voice was calm. Quick pause. If you want more stories like this in better quality, my Spotify's linked in the description. I had spent 12 minutes that morning making calls without my voice shaking, and I had whatever is left after that. Not calm exactly, but the functional version of it. Your venue is canceled, I said. So is the catering, the florist, and the photographer. You can't do this. I didn't cancel your wedding, Jessica. I canceled my contracts. There's a difference. What do you mean your contracts? She stopped. I could hear the specific silence of a person who has just understood something they should have understood a long time ago. The silence of a woman who had never read a contract, never asked whose name was on a document, never considered that handling it had a name attached to it and the name was not hers. You never asked, I said. 7 months, $47,000 of commitments, and you never once asked whose name was on the paperwork. Myra, in the background, my mother's voice, rising, sharp, demanding to know what was happening. Jessica, there's one more thing. I told her about Brandon. Not everything. Not the photo, not the text, just the parking lot 4 months ago, and the fact that he had promised me it was over and it was not over. I told her because she deserved to know, not to hurt her, because 8 years of protecting people from information had produced a wedding to a man who had been cheating on her for most of their engagement, and I was done making decisions about what my sister got to know about her own life. She was quiet for a long time after I finished. Then she hung up. I did not attend the wedding. I heard about it in pieces from my cousin Renee, who texted a running account with the particular combination of horror and fascination that distinguishes a spectator from a participant. The wedding moved to my mother's backyard. This required required phone calls, emergency trips to Costco, borrowed folding chairs from a neighbor 2 doors down. My mother had a Bluetooth speaker. Someone located artificial flower arrangements from a storage bin. The backyard of a vinyl-sided colonial in West Hartford was not Wren Valley Estate. 60 guests arrived holding invitations that said, Wren Valley Estate, ceremony at 2 p.m. They found themselves standing in front of a row of folding chairs on a lawn that had not been professionally prepared for an event. By 1:45, most of them knew the broad outline of what had happened. My Aunt Carol had the social efficiency of a woman who believes information is a form of hospitality, and she had been sharing the story since her arrival. The specific version she was sharing, according to Renee, emphasized the contracts, the name on the contracts, and the text message my sister had sent the previous evening. The ceremony happened. I was told it was brief. At 3:15 p.m. Brandon's co-worker, identified by Renee as a woman named Donna, who had clearly decided that her second glass of white wine was a professional credential, said in the direction of the table nearest the bridal party, I honestly can't believe he went through with it after everything with Megan at the office. The table went quiet, then not quiet. Then Renee sent me a voice memo and I put it on speaker and held my phone away from my ear because of the volume. Megan, it turned out, was the woman from the parking lot. Also, the wrong number text. Also, the restaurant in New Haven. Donna had known for 2 months, which was information she had apparently been managing until the second glass of wine relieved her of the responsibility. Jessica found out about Megan at her own wedding reception, in her mother's backyard, on a folding chair from the neighbors. My sister called me 4 days after the wedding. She did not call to yell at me. I had been prepared for that call and had not known what version of it to expect. She called at 7:30 on a Wednesday morning and said, before I could speak, I want to know everything about Brandon, everything you knew and when you knew it. I told her everything. The parking lot, the 3 months I gave him, the wrong number text, the photograph. She was very quiet through all of it. Why didn't you tell me? She said. It was the right question. I kept thinking I was protecting you. I said, I've been protecting you for a long time. I think I did it because it felt like what I was supposed to do and I didn't know how to stop. I paused. That was wrong. You deserve to know. Another silence. The text I sent you, she said. Yes. The contracts. Yes. She stopped. I never thought about whose name was on them. I just assumed you would handle it, I said. I know. I always handled it. I didn't know how much I assumed, she said. I genuinely didn't know. I believed her. That was the complicated part. I believed that she genuinely had not known, which is not the same as what she did being acceptable, but which is different from willful exploitation. She had grown up in a family system where I handled things, and she had learned the lesson that system taught, and neither of us had examined the lesson until the night before her wedding when she sent a text that made the whole architecture visible. We talked for a long time. Brandon and Jessica separated within the week. My mother was angry at me for approximately 3 months, which was shorter than I had expected, and which I attribute to Aunt Carol's continued information efficiency, and to my mother's eventual acknowledgement that a canceled reservation was, in the final accounting, a less significant event than a groom who had been unfaithful for most of his engagement. The deposits, $12,000 total across the 4 vendors, I absorbed. That was the cost of the cancellation clause, and it was the cost I had accepted when I made the calls. I do not regret it. Patricia Voss helped me draft a document summarizing the financial contributions I had made to my family over the previous 8 years. Not for legal action. I had no interest in legal action. For clarity, for my own accounting, $67,000 over 8 years, across the mortgage contributions, the tuition, the emergency bills, the wedding deposits. I gave a copy to my mother at Christmas. She looked at the total for a long time. I didn't know it was that much, she said. I know, I said. Myra, I don't want anything, I said. I just wanted you to know. My sister filed for divorce in January. Her attorney, a woman named Sarah Gould who had 17 years in family law and who Jessica described as methodical and relentless, was handling the asset division efficiently. Brandon had retained his own counsel. The process was proceeding. Jessica called me on a Tuesday in February. I'm looking for an apartment, she said. I found one I like. I wanted to tell you before I signed anything. A pause. I'm signing it myself. I understood what she meant. Good, I said. I've been thinking about what you said, about handling things. I think I let you do it because it was easier than learning how. And you let me because... She stopped. Why did you let me? I thought about our father, about being 23 with a new salary and a family that needed someone to figure it out, about how being useful had become, over years, the same thing as being necessary, and how being necessary had become the thing I measured myself by, because it made me feel like I was still holding the family together, I said, and I didn't want to let go of that, even when it cost me. She was quiet. I'm going to learn how to handle things, she said. I know you will, I said. She signed the lease herself. She sent me a photograph of the signed page, her name on the signature line. I still do project management. I still arrive early and leave late and review every document before anyone signs it. I still check whose name is on the contract. Always mine now. Only mine. She called it real family and said I didn't belong. Every folding chair in that backyard proved exactly how wrong she was. She texted me out of her wedding the night before it happened. I texted back 5 words. Mom laughed and said I was bluffing. 12 minutes, 4 phone calls. I wasn't bluffing.